Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
Link to We the People meeting in Assembly Call February 28, 18 audio-https://fccdl.in/bjgafliketd. Open to the public 712-770-4160 access code 1757994 * every Wednesday 7:30 p.m. Participation welcome. Please repost. Topics: The Colorado 8 trials. And are you a citizen under the government or a national above the government? The steps you need to do to change your legal status.
Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us this evening. This is the Florida Assembly, We the People in Assembly conference call. Today's date is February 28th, 2018. We welcome everyone to the call. The purpose of the call is to educate ourselves and our contracted public servants on the Constitution and the common law, and try to, bridge the difference between de facto and de jure practices. And so that's the main purpose of the call. If you have a question, please, when you're ready to ask the question, say, "May I?" And that'll get you attention for the floor. And then when you are finished making your point, you can say, "I yield." And after that, right now what we're going to do is open up the floor to some general conversation. We have a few points to talk about this evening. One is that we have assemblies all across the country, and we have some wonderful patriots spread out all across the country. Some of the patriots out in Colorado have run into some roadblocks in their activities with the de facto government entities. And so what I'd like to do is we have a special guest tonight, Chief Justice Mickey on Wisconsin, and I've asked her to kind of give us a brief overview. And since we have some new callers, I'm going to ask her to kind of give a little bit of background on the whole Colorado Assembly in the beginning, real briefly, and then how they became entangled in de facto, and then give us an update on the current status of one of our patriots that's being held in a de facto prison and is in trial at this time. So, Chief Justice Mickey, are you available?
If I may, before you start, I think you've got some feedback. You're using your speakerphone, or somebody else is talking.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
hearing
you.
a lot of noise there.
I got a few backgrounds on here. Let me just mute them. Is that any better?
Thank you.
All righty. Is Chief Justice Mickey available?
I am.
All right. Thanks, Mickey. Could you introduce yourself and let us know what's going on with the Colorado team? Thank you.
Sure. I'm Chief Justice Mickey, and I became such by a vote of the people of the National Assembly. I became a justice by a vote of the people on Wisconsin originally, and I've been with this group for 3 years now, I think. It's hard to know. But I've been dealing with what we call the Colorado 9. The Colorado 9 were people, I shouldn't say were, are people that are involved in the Colorado Assembly, much like you have your Florida Assembly and there's Michigan Assembly and Illinois, and Nevada. You guys all have your assemblies. Well, they also, too, have their assembly going on Colorado. They are a very, very active assembly at the time. And their assembly basically were very active in making sure that their public servants had the correct documents to be a public servant. That being said, it had to do with the fact that they needed to be on a valid oath and they needed to have a valid bond according to the Colorado Constitution. And what happened was, because their assembly was so active, they started to issue, the best way I could describe it would be a requirement to these officers that were claiming that they were public servants to the people, various judges, various prosecuting attorneys, and other people. They started to require them to have a valid oath and bond. And when that oath and bond wasn't followed as the Colorado statutes put forward, all they did was they gave a warning to those public officials that they had X amount of days to get that straightened out. So that was the first thing they did. When these officials ignored it, then they went ahead and they figured out, I suppose you would call it like a fine. The assembly figured out a fine method, and then they proceeded to give that fine to them for payment. When that fine payment wasn't met, I believe they gave them other documents that supported that. Basically, like you give a notice of fault and then default. And in the end, if I'm comprehending things correctly, and I came into this right when they were in the middle of going after the oaths and bonds of a lot of their public officials. And at that time, I believe they had been putting a common law lien or a commercial lien, maybe it was commercial more than common law, on these various people. So that my comprehension was they were added to a lien list. I'm guessing that most of the time it didn't matter until one of the judges that were liened was not able to get the financial support needed for their child for college. That seemed to set in motion a whole series of events. During that time frame, I think they were actually watching this group from about 2014 on, which was probably just before I got into the group, because from some of the things that I'm seeing, when they put down how long they were involved in certain activities, that's the year that they had down. They also had a person that they had allowed to infiltrate the group, to which our group trusted. He was a marshal, and his name was Marshal Springer, and he was very much involved, but he was a plant. So, of course, he had recordings, and he had conversation, and he got documents and various different things while he was undercover. And the long and the short of it is, they finally put together, after, I suppose, a couple of years, they were watching the group, they put together an indictment. And originally the indictment was for 8 people, and then they added the 9th, which would be Stephen Curry. Most of the Colorado 9, let's see, if I remember right, let me tell you the way that I know it. Justice Doucette is this week having his trial. Grand Jury Administrator Nolte, he is already been sentenced, I believe, to like 40 years and is in the process of an appeal. Justice Byfield is also in the middle of an appeal. He got 38 years. I'm not really totally sure. I just looked up Goodman, and Lawrence Goodman has a hearing May 14th through the 24th. His hearing is yet to come. I'm going to suspect that Smith took a plea deal. Janice Blease took a plea deal. David Caulfield took a plea deal. And Brian Balog. The only ones that I know of the people that took a plea deal, the only one that I know for sure that's in jail is Brian Baylog. And I have weekly communication with Brian Baylog, with Steve Nolte and Steve Byfield. I have weekly conversation with all of them. And with Justice Doucette, not so much lately as I was, but I am kept updated by Kim on how things are going. So currently this week is when Justice Doucette is having his trial, and from the reports that I'm receiving from Kim, and she sent the group of us that are on the team, she sent us notes from the hearing, and she felt like the hearing was really, for the most part, was going very, very well. She said that Justice Doucette did a really, really good job at his opening statement. And the only thing is he was very frustrated because I believe she said 2 of the jurors, I believe, are government employees, I think is what she said. Let me see where she puts that. I believe that's what she said about it. I'm looking through my notes right now so I can tell you what he's doing. Yeah, he's got government employees there, and so I think there was 2 of them. And so he was very, very frustrated. I think she said something. She thought one of them was from the DOJ. So I'm not sure about that. So that would appear and give the impression that it's a stacked jury right from the get-go. But like I said, she told me that he did really, really well in his opening remarks. She thought it was really good. And he's been doing a lot of cross-examining of the witnesses. He's been bringing to light a lot of questions. He actually got the prosecutor to read the 13th Amendment, and they were able to submit a certified copy of the original 13th Amendment. And I can't remember, I want to say it's this guy named Ryan English. I think he's the one that thought that the 13th Amendment hadn't been ratified. And I guess Justice Doucette basically said, well, what if I could give you proof that that's not a true case, that it really was ratified? They showed a box of diplomat license plates from what Kim said, which is Justice Doucette's wife, and they showed a box of license plates, and I said to her, really? I said, did he bother to ask them? Okay, so where's the law that states I can't have a box of diplomat license plates? And by diplomat, I don't know what she means. I don't know if she meant they were plates that he had made up, as some of us have had made private plates, that kind of thing. I'm not sure. But I do know that he was going to be cross-examining Marshall Spring this morning, so I will get notes, I'm guessing, later on. But she said that he did an amazing job in his cross-examination of this trooper named Gerard. So he said that was something that, or she said that was something that went really well. Let's see. She said they played an audio of Bruce and others talking about going about and arresting judges. And then they talked about Marshall Spring asking if Justice Bruce, if he could make him an auto rifle. And Justice Bruce, said yes. In cross-examining, Bruce asked how he can act honorably while lying and trapping people. He asked that, I guess, of Marshall Spring. And then Bruce asked him who brought up the subject of building ARs, and Marshall Spring danced around for a second. Then Justice Bruce said, I didn't bring it up, you did. So like Kim says, she says if she was a juror, she would like to think that she was seeing the entrapment, but she doesn't know if they really care, per se. I guess Justice Bruce also brought up about the Second Amendment and how it states that there will be no impediments to owning weapons, or impediments, sorry. Let's see here. And I guess she said they went through about 100 docs, one by one, of various asseverations and criminal complaints, arrest warrants, etc. So he was supposed to, Justice Bruce was supposed to be cross-examining Ryan English, who is an FBI person, after lunch. I'm sure Kim will send me the notes later as she gets them. but she said he's really, really done a very good job. And just the fact that they were able to get that 15th Amendment put in there and accepted as evidence was better than what happened with Nolte and Byfield, because they weren't able to get anything put in as evidence, specifically if it had anything to do with the Constitution. So that's pretty much all I have for today, and it's like Kim says, she thinks it's going very, very well, but it's still going to be remaining to see what happens, of course, with the jury, and because they've stacked the jury, even though he does well, you know, the outcome could be not favorable. What was amazing to me is I was looking through, I'm helping Nolte to prepare his appeal and giving him advice on different things he can do, but what struck me is how one of the things that actually two of the charges they got on him were tax evasion. Now, I want to know what tax evasion had to do with the fact that they had put these liens on these judges. Because the real problem here was how they have several charges where the group was supposedly retaliating against these judges over Charlene Bonsuezi's situation. And she was a lady that was in jail, and I don't even remember now what she was in jail for, but they believe, in their little minds, they believe that that's what this whole situation all started over, was that the people started rallying around Charlene and decided to get back. What really happened during that time frame, from my comprehension of the situation, was that in their desire to help Charlene, they actually started studying the laws of the Constitution, or the Constitution amendments. They started studying the Colorado laws to find out just what authority, how do these people get their authority, what do they have to be in their office to be on valid oath and bond. But I can tell you one thing, we know for fact they were headed in the right direction, because I won't say for sure, but I believe it was Shapiro, which is the lead prosecuting attorney general. He's an assistant attorney general, if I remember right. He basically, I believe, was one of the people that was not on a valid oath or bond. I think it was oath, possibly. And if I'm correct, he's the one that right after the indictment came out, he quick went ahead and got it straightened out. So if what the people were saying was true or wasn't true, he wouldn't have gone ahead and made an exact situation where he went in and changed his oath real quick. So, but the people, just so that everybody here knows, the people did not originally just fine those people for not being on a valid oath and bond. They actually gave them, I want to say it was like 45 days, or I can't remember now how many days it was, to fix the problem. So it wasn't like they just went out and said, well, you're not on this and we're going to charge you X amount of money for doing that. And the people voted as an assembly. They are a lawful assembly. The Colorado Assembly is a lawful assembly. And the indictment that has come down, I've had a chance to look at the indictment. In my opinion, from what I know about law, it is not a valid indictment. It does not have the signature of the foreperson. And a valid indictment must have a signature of the foreperson. It must be labeled as a true bill. There's certain things it has to have, and it doesn't have that. So it's all under color of law, and it remains to be seen just how this case is going to go. I have heard, and I didn't get a chance to talk with Kim yet, but I had heard that somebody from the Bundy group who did a lot of PR stuff for the Bundy was going to be at Justice Bruce's trial, and I don't know if that came out to pass or not. That's what I'd heard. I don't know who the Colorado people are that are actually sitting in on the trial. I'm going to guess there are a few, like I'm guessing Helena was probably there. I haven't had a chance to talk with her. We'll find out more tonight on the judge's call. So sorry that got long-winded, but you wanted to have a little bit of background, so there you have it. I yield.
Awesome. Thank you, Mickey. Greatly appreciate it. Now, I'm going to make a comment, but I'm also going to ask you after my comment to enlighten the group on the difference, please, between de facto and de jure to kind of enhance what you said, okay? And so now what I'm going to say is this. The group in Colorado considered themselves to be de jure, and, of course, anything that's a color of law, corporation, is going to be de facto. Now, we, the people, are the ones who ordain and establish and give authority to government to begin with. And so all power is invested in the people. So we are the highest authority. So de jure trumps de facto, okay? Now, what they were doing out there was totally lawful in the concept of de jure and de facto, okay? Now, the question is, were the de jure stepping into the de facto and rattling their world? Well, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But did that give the de facto, our servants, the right to trump up and create a bunch of entrapment charges to take down the factual information where these people were truly not meeting the Colorado constitutional requirements, okay? So that's just a little bit of a and as you know, as you can tell from Mickey, she's very well versed. So Mickey, if you could please explain the difference of de jure existence and de facto.
Well, first of all, I want everybody to comprehend the de facto is the corporation known as the United States. It's gone by various names throughout the years, depending upon when they've done their bankruptcies. It's been the United States or the United States. They've changed it several times. But that's the de facto, and they are a corporation. The de jure are the people that are on the states that are of the land. They're the people that have the ability to make law. They're the people that are sovereign. And if you have been listening to Mary at all, Mary does a really, really awesome job. And Mary and I have been missing each other like crazy. We've been trying to hook up on the phone for last couple of days about some stuff. But if you get a chance to listen to the Colorado call after this tonight, We the People on Colorado Assembly, she has been giving very good information on the whole situation of appropriated land. And what you're going to find out is there's very little appropriated land. So if the de facto is on your state, like for instance, on my state of Wisconsin, in my little burg where I live, half hour away from me, we have a courthouse. It is more than likely if I were to do my study and to look, and because I'm involved in so much, I haven't taken the time, I would probably find out that those buildings are private property and not, in fact, owned by the government. It's probably owned by a corporation, which would make it technically private property. Yet they make it appear like it's the property of the people and that the people's taxes will pay for that. Well, the reality is the people's taxes, it's been proven in the Grace Report commissioned by Ronald Reagan, that not one penny of your taxes stays in America to do any good for the people. It's not for roads. It's not for building and infrastructure. It's not for nothing. So you need to comprehend that I think where the situation went, the de facto being the corporation acting as the government, and then you've got the de jure, which is the people that are the ones that are sovereign, that are on the land, that can actually make money and do the various things. I hope that's a good explanation between the two if you don't already comprehend that. But I think I have to agree with Justice Schiavone on the fact that I think the problem here, and I tried to I tried to tell the people of the National Assembly this on Thursday night last week, and we had quite a heated discussion. People are wanting to take out the government. And I said, wait a minute. That's a corporation. I have no more right to go into that corporation and tell them how to run their business than they have to tell me to run mine. If a Walmart employee walks into Target, the Walmart employee can't start telling Target people how to run their place. The CEO of Walmart can't go in and tell the CEO of Target what to do. That's really what I think happened here. I could be very wrong, but it is my perception of the situation as it unfolded that they went in and poked the bear. There might have been another way to handle the situation, because that corporation, like every corporation, has bylaws. They have their own, if you want, their own constitution, and they can follow in their constitution what they're doing. They can do what they want to do by their own bylaws. So it is not our job to go in there and take them out of their corporation. What we have to do is have our own group set up whereby we have our assemblies and whereby we can govern our people as the ones that want to be governed. For those that want to belong in the corporation, the United States, they are free to do so, because every man, every woman has the right to contract with whomever she or he will. So if you want to contract and you want to be part of that situation, you're welcome to contract. But in the case of what happened where they went after those judges, I comprehend the fact that if someone does wrong to you, you have a right to go to them and tell them that they've done wrong to you. I think where the problem lies is that most people don't really comprehend that the corporation is well within its means to do what it's doing. That makes people mad. But the reality of it is, we need to realize the best thing we can do is stay out of their corporation. And sometimes that is almost impossible. Believe me, I know. I'm involved in some things right now with various people, and it is really, really tough to stay out of their courts. And so the only thing you can do is to stay out of them. But is it the way you want to go right now, to go after them? I think we're going to find out there is a way to do this eventually down the road, and it will be under the fact that they are acting as if they are our public officials, when in fact they're not. They're administrators for the corporation, the United States. And in saying all that, I need to say that as far as with Trump goes, I've noticed something that he's done that a lot of presidents didn't do in the last few years. It seems to be more common with him. I've noticed where he calls himself the President of the United States of America. That's been more common in his talks and executive orders than I have seen in the other presidents. And it's curious to me because it's almost like he possibly is wearing two hats. It appears he might be actually, of course, he is the CEO of the United States. He's the commander-in-chief of that military organization. But it appears he may also have the hat of the people. It's a possibility. I know from studying trust law and equity, I know that you can wear two hats at the same time. Many of us are involved in such a scenario. You might be a nurse, and a mom, and a grandma. So we all understand that there's possibility of wearing two hats, but I don't think we ever equate the fact that it might be possible that some of these people in the corporation are actually wearing two hats, and they act according to whatever that thing is that they're currently at the moment. So I think some of the things like the executive order that President Trump has done, where he's, cut off the funding for a lot of these people that are involved in human trafficking, that to me looks and appears to be him acting as a president of the United States of America. And that's just my personal take. With that, I will yield. I hope that I gave a good explanation between de jure and de facto, and I hope that helped. I yield.
Mickey, thank you so much. You did great, and truly better than I had expected in the sense that I really did want you to lay some groundwork for some of the things that I wanted to discuss, and you did that marvelously. To kind of recap what Mickey said, was that, okay, so you have a de jure, which is we the people, and you have de facto, which originates from we the people, but that's the enumerated powers that we gave them in the Constitution, okay, to represent us in affairs. Now, she then later on explained how they have branched out and are committing possibly a fraud upon the people by pretending to actually be our government when they are in fact just a private corporation that are doing illegal conversion of tax dollars and funds and sending them elsewhere, which is probably, and I would say most likely, what is happening, okay? So the Colorado 9 got themselves in trouble simply because they were pointing out the fraud, but they were doing it in a different jurisdiction that was foreign to them, okay? So now that leads me into what I want to discuss. And so how do, so you sit back and you look at this stuff and you say, well, okay, man, where do we go wrong? I mean, these guys, they had no intent on, causing harm. They read, what things were supposed to be, but in the back of their mind, they're thinking these people are saying they're our government. But there wasn't a total comprehension of that they really weren't our government. They were just a government services corporation, and like Mickey pointed out, Justice Mickey pointed out, was that they have a right to exist, okay? And so there's a fine line there. Now, so what do we do as Mickey also pointed out this. She said, well, they have a right to exist, and you have a right to choose who you wish to contract with, okay? So now, how does that work? Well, all of us, we have these contracts with these guys that they tie us into. Now, people sit there and they say, oh, my God, the Constitution, they don't pay attention to it, they don't do this, they don't listen to nothing, this, that, and the other thing. And that's because there's these adhesion contracts that we're bound to, and then they're just following a corporate policy, and they don't have to follow the Constitution. And what are those adhesion contracts? There are things like volunteering to be a United States citizen. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, unless you were born in the 10 square miles of Washington, D.C., or Guam, or Puerto Rico, or any other territory of the United States, and point here, United States of America, okay? So United States, then you're not a United States citizen. Now, okay, so I live in a neighborhood that does not have a homeowners association, but right behind me, there's a neighborhood that does have a homeowners association. Those people there have to follow all the rules of the home when they purchase their home, because they're citizens or members or residents of that group. So they're bound by those rules, and they don't hold up in court, all right? So that's really what it comes down to. So we're all tricked into saying that we're United States citizens by everything. That's because that's part of the fraud. But the truth of the matter is, I'm a Pennsylvanian. I was born in Pennsylvania. Right. Chief Justice Mickey is a Wisconsinite, because that's where she hails from, right? And that goes for everyone. So unless you were born in a territory of the United States, you're not a United States citizen. So that's just one way that you have been tricked into saying that you are a United States citizen and that you're bound by those membership rules, if we want to call it, okay? and that has to do with the United States Code and everything else, okay? So now you get a little bit of an insight as to how these folks out in Colorado got themselves in hot water, because they were crossing this boundary and they had not properly corrected their status, okay? So now we sit back and we look and we say, okay, so how do we, the people, properly exist alongside of the de facto and yet remain as sovereign? Because just like Chief Justice Mickey said a few moments, in the beginning, it's very difficult. Everywhere you turn, they're pulling you in, It's like that movie with the Godfather. They keep pulling me in, and they do. They pull you in, they pull you in. But what do? Well, you have to address a lot of different situations, okay? So what are those situations? Well, they have what's called a territorial citizen. They have a municipal citizen, okay? And so these are just, two examples of the types of citizenships that they operate in. And so you may think you remove yourself from one, you're covered, but you're not. So there's a whole group of things that you need to do to remove yourself. So what's the foundation for that? Okay, so what you do, and at least in my research, and, they have what's called this United States Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act of 1976. Okay, now Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. So what's a foreign sovereign? Well, okay, so if they're a de facto and they're a corporation and we're de jure, right, on the land, then we are foreign to them and we are the sovereign. Okay? So if we're foreign to them and we're the sovereign, that makes sense. Okay? Let me try to find out who's making all that noise here. There we go. I'll mute that person. There we go. Okay. So now, so what you have is this Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. Okay. So we're foreign to them in respect to them, and they admit that we're foreign and that we're sovereign. Okay. And here's proof of it. If you look in the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act of 1976, and you go down to subsection 1605, I think it is, hold on, 1605, where are you? Okay, 1605. So there it is. It says, general exceptions to the jurisdictional immunity of a foreign state. Okay, so we're foreign, and as the people that we are a state of being. Okay, so we are a foreign state. Now, if you look at A, it says, and I'm going to say the title one more time: general exceptions to the jurisdictional immunity of a foreign state. A foreign state shall not be immune from the jurisdiction of the courts of the United States or of the states in any case, and then it goes on and says, number one, in which the foreign state has waived its immunity. Now, the sentence goes on a little more, but I want to stop there. So what it's saying is that, okay, one of the exceptions to being immune is if you've waived your immunity. Well, now let's continue that sentence. Either explicitly or by implication. Well, explicitly means, well, I volunteered to be a United States citizen. Or by implication, well, I'm a registered voter, so that just implies it. Or I've got a driver's license. You see how that works? So there's where they trick you, okay? So now what does that mean? That means that you have to make sure that you give them notice that you haven't explicitly or by implication waived your immunity, okay? So now how do you do that? Well, there's a lot of ways to do it. So now let me just go on, and I'm going to continue. I'll give you that example of those in a second. I'm going to move down to 1607 because it's also relevant in the, and it's regarding counterclaims, and this further supports what I believe is correct about what I'm discussing here. and it says counterclaims. And it says, in any action brought by a foreign state, so an action brought by a foreign state, or in which a foreign state intervenes in a court of the United States, that's the de facto, the corporation, or of a state, de facto, the foreign state shall not be accorded or given the immunity with respect to any counterclaim, and then it says A, for which a foreign state would not be entitled to immunity under 1605. So that tells you right there, as long as you never waived your rights, you're a sovereign, okay? Now, hopefully you all follow me on that. So how does this work? Okay, so what you do is you then have some other information, okay, and it's a lot more detailed than what we can do on this call tonight for time factor. But the military manual, published by pamphlet 27-161-1 from the War Department, Department of the Army, clearly says that we, the people, those of us that are immune, are entitled to the law of peace. Now, we already know when we go into the courts, they have that gold fringe flag. We're given the law of war in those courts because have been in since the 1800s, the late 1800s, under martial law. Okay? So what you need to do is in that pamphlet there, if you read it, it says that you have to give them a mandatory notice of your political status if it's not other than what they presumed. And they automatically have codes out there that presume that everyone is a United States citizen unless you tell them that you're not. Okay? So what you do is you give them mandatory notice of a declaration of your political status as for lack of a better word, an American state national, okay? But more specifically in the code, you want to use the words a non-citizen, non-combatant, civilian, and you are the missing foreign sovereign owed the law of peace. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you see, they assume that because you're volunteering all this stuff and they know that the de jure you exist somewhere, but nobody's claiming it because it's only this de facto representative always showing up. Where's that de jure guy? He must be missing, all right? So you have to point out to them, and this is a sad, sad state of affairs, but this is what the reality is. The missing foreign sovereign owed the law of peace, and that, again, is pamphlet 27-161-1 from the War Department, Department of Army, okay? And you have to let them know that you're not acting in the capacity of a territorial citizen under the law of war, okay? So that's one way to do it. Now, I'm going to give you just a quick rundown because, we're running, we only have an hour call here. So one of the things that you can do, and there's 10 of them that I have done, and so I'm going to share with you those things. And there's examples just from my research. One is I contacted the supervisor of elections of the county that I reside in and declared my right of suffrage as an elector. Now, that's something that's, basically rescinding your United States citizenship and the fact that you were previously conned into registering as a voter. And that's just kind of a quick explanation of that. The second thing I did was notified the Internal Revenue Office of the commissioner, and I gave him a declaration of revocation of my election to pay taxes because taxes are voluntary, okay? So I revoked my election to pay taxes. Then I sent a letter to the Commissioner of the Internal Revenue Service, Department of the Treasury, and I gave them a notice of claim of exemption and that I retired from presumed federal service, okay? Next up, I contacted the Secretary of Treasury, which is the IRS, and I surrendered that federal person that they created, that all-caps fiction, back to them, and I assigned him specifically, the treasurer, the fiduciary that's responsible to answer for it. So when they come looking for me in my all-caps name, I could say, well, that's not me. I'm not responsible for that. You go see that guy up there, and here's the IRS form that I filed, a year and a half ago, and he's the guy. Sorry, you can't talk to me because you ain't going to get anywhere. So then the next thing up, I did an acknowledgement, acceptance, and reconveyance of my trade name. My trade name is my name that was given to me at birth. They hijacked it. On your birth certificate, you have a birth date, and then about a week, 3 days, 10 days later, you have a point where it was registered. That's at the point where your parents signed you over as a ward to the state, and you went missing, and you no longer existed, okay? And the fact that there's a probate seal at the bottom of your birth certificate proves that they probated that. So what you do is you acknowledge, accept, and reconvey your trade name back to the soil of your birth state, okay? Mine happened to be Pennsylvania, so I put that there. Now, of course, all these things you want to try and record into common law public records, if you can. Next up, I did an act of expatriation and domicile declaration and allegiance. Basically what that means is I said that all the presumptions that you had that I was a United States citizen, no, that ain't right, that ain't me. I was born on the soil of Pennsylvania, and I'm declaring that's where I'm domiciled, and that's where my allegiance is to the soil, okay? Because you got to remember, they're bringing maritime law of the sea over the land. So if you put yourself, that name, your trade name, back on the soil, again, you're removing from their jurisdiction. Then next up, I did a declaration of certification of nativity. What basically that is it's my own birth certificate based upon my family records. And as long as you swear to it under penalty of perjury, it's as valid as theirs, okay? And it's not attached to any of the nonsense. Then next up, I did a UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, financing statement where I liened that bankrupt public transmitting utility and I liened the bankrupt citizenship organization. And each one of those are a form of your name in all caps. One, it would be, say, your last name, first name, and middle initial, and the other one would be your first name and last name, all of them in all caps. And those two are currently in bankruptcy, and they've been for a while. So you lien those names. Then next up, I did a due declaration and notice of a factualized trust, where I created a trust that was factualized the day that I was born, that precedes the one that they made a week or 10 days later. And then the final thing I did was did a certificate of assumed name, notice of transfer of reserve name under common law copyright of trade name. So basically, I just took my common law name, the name I was given at birth, and I copyrighted it. And since it happened a week or 3 days or 10 days or whatever the situation is before they, your parents signed you off, you are a holder in due course, meaning that you have first right to that name. So then once you copyright that name, now you have just about everything you need, as far as I can tell, to stand down any claims against you from the de facto, as if then you could stand into the de jure. Okay? So that's all I wanted to cover. But anyway, so we're at 8:22. Does anybody have any questions for either Chief Justice Mickey or myself?
Yeah, Grandpa Stan here in Brooksville.
Hi, Grandpa.
Yes, how about a state national passport? Should that be in your file?
Yes, it would be. I have no interest in a passport because I don't travel much, okay? But yes, it is kind of on my bucket list, and maybe at one point I would do that, and I would agree with you that with all the documentation that I just spoke of, you could just package that up and send it off with an application to the State Department, Secretary of State, and certainly get the proper, without any delay, clear as a bell, that you're on the land, a proper passport. Absolutely.
Very good. Now, also what Mickey was talking about, it was sort of a record, I guess, because if you follow the Montana Freemen back in the mid-'90s, the reason they went to jail is because they filed liens against judges. So what's happening today with the Colorado 9 is not new. It's already come to pass. And I'm not sure if we're learning anything from history.
Well, again, these gentlemen that this happened to, their intent wasn't to be, and again, we're speaking in foresight, okay? We're looking back on everything, and so hindsight, I should say, without foresight, and so, we can argue that it was a mistake, but clearly, even in the de facto, in my opinion, everything should be judged if it's even proper to judge, or at least by a jury perhaps, but not certainly by a individual or a person. But it's about intent. Okay, these people never intended to do any of the things that were allegated against them that they were convicted of. Okay, there's just no way that there was intent for any of that stuff. Their intent was clearly in a different jurisdiction, and yet the other people, they didn't really care about it, and they totally know. I guarantee you, they totally know that those people are exactly right, but they brought them over into a different jurisdiction. They withheld evidence. They tampered with the jury by giving them jury instructions. They said, we'll tell you what the law is. This is the thing, blah, 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 the whole deal. So, yeah. So, of course, once you get into that system over there, it's you got a problem. It's a big problem. So, yeah, did we learn anything? Well, I say we did because, these guys are there and they're suffering, but here we are having a great conversation. Mickey shared wonderful information. Hopefully you enjoyed the information I shared. And all
beautiful. Yep.
And I think all of what both Mickey and I spoke of are really the end result of what these folks did. So, a patriot is a patriot, and they know what they're doing when they go into it. And, some pay the price for others' freedom, and that's what being patriotic is about. Now, are we going to stop fighting to help these folks? No, not at all. Not a snowball's chance in hell, right? But, I think we learned, and I think we're learning every day. So
from the Montana guys and the Colorado guys, we should have learned, be careful if you're going to screw around with the judges, because they are protected. We just have to find other avenues to try to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, and I'll yield.
Yeah, and Grandpa Stan, I totally agree with you, and I think Chief Justice Mickey alluded to that, whereby we just need to set up our assemblies and establish the proper jurisdictions, and the problem is that funding and all the people, they believe, and even most of the employees, they believe that are in the de facto agencies, they don't know the difference. And like I said at the beginning of the call, we're trying to explain to everyone the difference between de facto and de jure, because those in the de jure think, oh, well, this is the way it's supposed to be, but it's not. They're lied to, too, by that bar association. And BAR stands for British Accreditation Registration, and they're foreign agents. None of them are registered. And by the way, I think I mentioned it last week on the call, if you read that military manual, the Adjutant General, there's one assigned to every single state. That man is responsible for the foreign registered agents on the soil of each state, and they're supposed to be registered. So if you got somebody messing with you that's a bar attorney, you can go to that guy and say, I want to see this guy's registration status because I don't think he's got one because I can't find it. And if that guy's not a registered foreign agent, that man can step in and clear up your whole mess, and it all goes away. So again, like
may I interject for a second? Excuse me, may I interject before you guys cut off? I've got some important information I'd like to pass on to Justice Mickey regarding this court case. These folks in Colorado. This is Paul from West Palm Beach.
Okay.
Go to the website urlaw.org.
Yes, I'm very familiar with that site.
Are you familiar with the right of subrogation then?
Yes, I do. I know all about the right of subrogation. I've been studying subrogation for the last 2.5 years.
Oh, okay. So the script, you're familiar with the script then at that website.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But thank you for bringing that forward.
Yeah, I was going to say that they're not interested in trying. They couldn't try it there in that case in the courtroom.
I know that Grand Jury Administrator Nolte used it in his, and it did not make a difference.
I'll be doggone. Okay.
So there's a lot of things that are touted out there as being the magic bullet, if you will, but when they're put to practice in the field, to my knowledge, this is my knowledge, I've been studying equity law for, 3 years maybe now, 4 maybe, and equity law seems to be the only place where that subrogation actually works. I have not seen it ever used in a de facto case effectively. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying I haven't seen it yet. But I have seen it in equity cases.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I thought I'd throw it in there before we're cut off.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'd also like to mention, too, that to get that state and national passport through the Department of State, there's a gentleman that handles that, destinationfreedom.org. Christopher handles that for us. He does a great job, fills out all the forms and so forth. And then you get a state national passport. You don't need your driver's license anymore. And when they run that through, they can't mess around with you because you're completely out of the corporation's jurisdiction.
I don't know of anybody that's gotten a state national passport, so I'd be interested.
Yeah, we'll go to Anna Von Wright's One Free Man. He's in the comments section there. They talk about it all the time as far as getting this one. I've applied for it. I've got to apply for it again, but yeah.
Destination Freedom, what were you saying was the name of that website?
The website, Destination Freedom, all spelled out, .org.
I will look that up, but like I said, to my knowledge, I know of nobody that's got a state national passport. Everybody that I know that has a passport has a regular United States of America passport.
Yeah, with this passport,
people have the 5 stars, but none of them have a state national passport that I'm aware of.
Yeah, you don't need your Social Security number. Christopher
Well,
shows
that used
up.
to be true. I don't know how many of you people have tried, but I know 6 people right now. 3 of them are in my family. Since 2016, they have made it mandatory to have your Social Security number, or they will not give you a passport.
Yeah,
if you were before that 2016 mark, the year 2016 before, you could do it, but now everybody that has applied in 2017 have not gotten one that I know of.
Yeah, there's an 11-page explanatory statement that is attached to the DS-11 passport application that Christopher puts together for you, and that's attached to the passport application. Yeah, we did an explanatory statement for our family that we did as well, and we attached that, and they would not. The first of all, they said you must have a Social Security number. Then when that didn't fly, they came back and said, oh, you're not a U.S. citizen, because we said on the application we're not a U.S. citizen. They said, well, if you're not a 14th Amendment U.S. citizen, you can't have a passport. So I and several others I know have now been denied. Yeah, well, Christopher's done over 1,000 of these successfully. So that's why. And see what he's done different. Thank you. Yep, I'm just passing it on to everybody. Yeah, so, thank you. That's interesting information. You're very welcome. I yield. Yeah, okay. I yield too.
Okay, so I'd like to step in again. Mickey, Chief Justice Mickey had alluded to that we could and are invited to join a Colorado conference call that happens later on this evening. And Chief Justice Mickey, would you share that phone number and access code for the group, please? I sure will. That number is 712-775-7035. Access code is 782102, and it starts 8:15 Central. Awesome, thank you. And did anyone who wanted to get it, or did you have a chance to grab a pen or pencil? And if you didn't, just up and she'll say it again. Okay, so it looks like we're good to go. All right, thanks everyone. Appreciate everyone joining the call. We had nearly 37 people tonight, and I think it was a good call. Thank you. Sure, go right ahead.
Is there any updates on anything going on, like especially in Charlotte County when it comes to these oaths and bonds for the sheriff, etc.? Because their 2 weeks is up last Friday.
Let's just say hold tight, Mark.
Say again?
There'll be more coming out.
Okay. Well, I took care of that. Okay, I yield.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to share? All right, thanks, folks. Really appreciate you all joining the call. See you next week.
Can you make sure that you get this recording right away, because there's lots of references there? Copy.
Absolutely. I'll have it sent out tomorrow.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too, because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheep up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County COPWATCH with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. 47,000 of you so far right now. $1 a day. $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.